brachial nerve. We have already finished the lecture on brachial plexus. That was 10.3. That is formation, branches, and relation of brachial nerve. So one of the branches of the brachial nerve is radial nerve. We will see the radial nerve in its branches, tributaries, and branches or relations in arm, forearm, and hand. They are the later three competencies. We will understand the anatomical basis of wrist jaw drop and the anatomical basis of Saturday night fever. Oh, paralysis, sorry, not fever. So coming to the specific learning objectives, today we will cover the radial nerve under the headings of origin, root value, course in arm, forearm and hand of the radial nerve. We will understand the relation, branches and terminations of the radial nerve. We will have to describe the causes of injury to the radial nerve at different levels and anatomical basis of the Saturday night paralysis as well as anatomical basis of the wrist drop. Out of this, radial nerve itself can be asked as a LAQ, long question answer for you all. A terminal branch of the radial nerve, that is the posterior intrusion of the deep branch of the radial nerve, can be asked as a short note. Wrist drop can be asked as a short note. The radial nerve, if you recall, is a branch which is arising from the posterior cord. Posterior cord is formed by the dorsal division of the ventral rim of C5 to T1. How? By giving the upper trunk will join, middle trunk will join, and the posterior trunk dorsal branches will join to form the posterior cord. So it is actually the continuation of the posterior cord. As it is a continuation of the posterior cord, its root value is C5, 6, 7, T1 and C8 and T1. So all the roots will be giving the contribution to formation of the radial nerve, which is the largest branch of the brachial plexus, and it is a continuation of the posterior cord. In the axilla, it will continue as the radial nerve. It goes to the posterior compartment, so it is actually supplying all the extensors of the arm and the forearm. So it is a nerve to the extensor compartment of the arm and the forearm. If you see the course, after it rises in the axilla, you recall in the axilla, there is axillary artery. We had seen related to the third part of the axillary artery. In the second part, posterior cord will rise posterior to the axillary artery. And then in the third part of the axillary artery, the cords start giving branches, right? So it will descend behind the third part of the axillary artery in front of the muscles which are forming the posterior axillary wall, namely subscapularis, latissimus dorsi, tendon, and teres major, right? So you have seen all these muscles forming the posterior wall of the axillary axilla, lying from above downwards, subscapularis, latissimus dorsi, and teres minor. So they will lie, the radial nerve will lie behind the third part of the axillary artery in front of these muscles. Now, as it descends down, the axillary artery will be continuing as brachial artery. So it will lie behind the brachial artery. Now, brachial artery we had seen in the previous lecture, it gives a very big branch which is called as profunda brachii. So the radial artery accompanies this profunda brachii, which is given from the brachial artery, and goes through a triangle which is called as the lower triangular area. We have already seen this lower triangular area, that is above it is bounded by teres major, medially it has long head of triceps, and laterally it has shaft of humerus. So this lower triangular area, the radial nerve along with the profunda brachii, which is a branch of the brachial artery, will go, and they lie in close approximation with the posterior surface of the humerus, and this groove in which it lies, it's called a spiral groove. So it has passing through the triangle, lying along the spiral groove, crosses the back of the humerus till it reaches to the lateral side of the humerus. So initially it was on the medial side. So it is going to cross in the spiral groove to go towards the lateral side. It will pierce the lateral intramuscular septum over here to enter into the anterior compartment. So it is entering into the anterior compartment from the posterior compartment by piercing the lateral intramuscular septum. So the beginning is in the behind the third part of the axillary artery, lying on three muscles. Then it will be accompanying the brachial artery, courses along with the profunda brachii artery through the lower triangular area, reaches in the spiral groove in the posterior surface of the humerus, pierces the lateral intramuscular septum to continue in the anterior compartment. As it comes in the anterior compartment, it will descend in deep in the furrow between brachialis muscle and brachioradialis. Brachialis we have already seen in the arm. The brachioradialis muscle takes origin from the lateral epicondyle, just above the lateral epicondyle, and goes to the radius. So it is called as brachioradialis. And there's another muscle which is going to the carpal bones in the wrist joint. They are called as extensor carpi radialis longus. So it will lie between the brachialis and brachioradialis till it reaches down to the lateral epicondyle. This is humerus. Humerus will have a condyle, lateral condyle and medial condyle. There's a projection on the condyles which is called as epicondyle. So on it just reaches anterior to the lateral epicondyle, where the radial nerve will divide into two branches, terminal branches. One is called as superficial branch, other is called as deep branch. The deep branch is also called as posterior interossei nerve. So the course from the beginning to the end, continuation of the posterior cord behind the third part of the axillary artery, lying on the posterior axillary wall, that is three muscles we saw, then accompanies the posterior to the radial artery, accompanies the profunda brachii, runs through the spiral groove on the posterior surface of the humerus, pierces the lateral intramuscular septum, comes anteriorly between the brachialis and brachioradialis, will in front of the lateral epicondyle divide into superficial and deep terminal branches. Now we will see branches in each row, each place. You know, when it is present in the axilla, it gives muscular branches. In the posterior compartment, you had seen there is triceps. There are three heads: long head, medial head, and lateral head. So in the axilla itself, it gives two muscular branches, that is one to the long head and one to the medial head of the triceps. Remember this very specifically. It is given to long head and medial head of triceps. It gives a cutaneous branch, which this cutaneous branch is called as posterior cutaneous nerve of arm. It is called as posterior cutaneous nerve of arm, obviously because it supplies the posterior surface of the upper arm. So it is called as posterior cutaneous nerve of the arm. Now, as it comes down in the spiral groove, in the arm only we are saying, in the spiral groove it will give some branches, and then again in the lower part of the arm it will give some branches. So branches given in the arm. Basically, in the spiral groove, it gives branches to the medial and the lateral head. So now see this. Medial head is getting two times supply. One in the axilla and another in the arm in the spiral groove, and the lateral head of the triceps. So all the three heads are supplied by radial nerve. Out of the three head, medial head is getting two times branches. One in the axilla and one in the spiral groove. The nerve which is given to the medial head is very long, and it will supply a very small muscle which is present over here, which is called as anconeus muscle, and it will also give an articular branch to the elbow joint. So it is supplying medial and lateral head. It is supplying unconeus. It is giving articular branch to the elbow joint. Now, when it pierces the lateral intramuscular septum, when it reaches in the lower part of the arm, it gives branch, which is called as branch supplying the muscle, which is brachialis. Brachialis muscle is called as Mr. brachialis. Mr. MR. M for median nerve and R for M for musculocutaneous nerve and R for radial nerve. Okay, so part of it is supplied by musculocutaneous nerve, part of it is supplied by radial nerves. And then brachioradialis, extensor, carpi radialis longus. It will be giving muscular branches to them. It gives cutaneous branch in the spiral groove itself, and there are two branches. One is the lower lateral cutaneous nerve of the arm. Lower lateral cutaneous nerve of the arm. Another is the posterior cutaneous nerve of the forearm. Posterior cutaneous nerve of the forearm. Okay. So now if you recall, medial cutaneous nerve of the forearm was given by the median cord. And musculocutaneous nerve continued at the lateral cutaneous nerve of the arm. Radial nerve is giving posterior cutaneous nerve of the forearm. Is it clear? So we saw up till now we have seen three cutaneous branches given from the radial nerve. One was the posterior cutaneous nerve of the arm. Then is the lower lateral cutaneous nerve of the arm. Then you have the lateral posterior cutaneous nerve of the forearm. Now, what we said at the lateral epicondyle, it divides into superficial and deep branch. The superficial branch is purely sensory. It does not supply any muscle. It is purely sensory. If you need to trace the superficial branch, if you see this is a superficial branch. This region, which is present in front of the elbow joint, is called as cubital fossa. It is called as cubital fossa. Structures in the cubital fossa, if you trace from medial to lateral side, is your median nerve, brachial artery, tendon of biceps brachii, and then is the superficial branch of the radial nerve. Okay, it is the superficial branch of the radial nerve which passes from here. So it is lying in lateral, as a lateral content of the cubital fossa. It will go between the two muscles, that is your brachioradialis and one more muscle over here which is called as pronator teres, and is your extensor carpi radialis longus. As it goes down, it will run superficial till it reaches just in middle third of the forearm, where it winds around the radius superficially, obviously below the skin. It will wind laterally so that it goes posteriorly to reach the dorsum, or this area which is called a snuff box. It will reach over here, the skin will reach over here to give final terminal branches. These terminal branches are digital branches which will supply dorsum, lateral 2/3 of the dorsum of the hand, and lateral 3.5 fingers, excluding the terminal phalanges. So it will supply the dorsum of the hand and lateral. In the hand, thumb is lateral, little finger is medial. Okay, so this is radial end and this is ulnar end. So it will supply lateral 3.5 fingers, excluding the terminal phalanx. Is it clear? So it is purely sensory. Basically, it is supplying the dorsum of the hand and lateral 3.5 fingers. Now, as you have not seen the forearm, I am trying to cover the forearm extensor compartment for you. If you look into the extensor compartment of the forearm, that is the posterior compartment of the forearm, there are superficial muscles and deep muscles. Try to understand with me. Going towards the medial side, we have extensor carpi ulnaris. Extensor carpi ulnaris. Then we have extensor digiti minimi. Extensor digitorum. Extensor digitorum. Is it clear? Then extensor pollicis, pollis means thumb, longus, extensor pollicis. Okay, now we have extensor carpi radialis brevis, extensor carpi radialis longus, and brachioradialis. So what we have seen the muscles is brachioradialis, extensor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis brevis, extensor digitorum, extensor carpi ulnaris, and anconeus. These are superficial muscles. As we go deeper to them, we have a deeper muscle which is called a supinator. We have abductor pollicis longus, extensor pollicis longus, extensor pollicis brevis, and extensor indicis. So all of these muscles which are responsible for extension are present in the posterior compartment, will be supplied by the radial nerve. Okay, will be supplied by the terminal branch of the radial nerve. Therefore, we have taken these muscles over here. So the deep branch of the radial nerve, which is called as posterior interossei nerve, as it lies in continuation or in very relation posteriorly to the interossei membrane, the name has been given as posterior interossei nerve. It supplies all the muscles of the extensor compartment, superficial as well as deep group. That is supinator, extensor carpi radialis brevis. Extensor carpi radialis longus was supplied, given a branch in the arm itself, we saw, right? In the lower part of the arm. So extensor carpi radialis brevis, extensor digitorum, extensor indicis, extensor digiti minimi, extensor carpi ulnaris, extensor pollicis longus, abductor pollicis longus. Pollicis means thumb, right? Extensor pollicis brevis. These three muscles, later three muscles are forming the boundaries of snub box. You will see in detail later. So in all, recall the muscles which are supplied by the radial nerve from the beginning to the end. What muscles are supplied? Triceps, all the three heads. Medial head gets 2 times branches, one in the axilla, one in the spiral groove. Brachialis, lateral half of the brachialis. Anconeus, brachioradialis, supinator, extensor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis brevis, extensor digitorum, extensor indicis, extensor digiti minimi, extensor carpi ulnaris, extensor pollicis longus, abductor pollicis longus, extensor pollicis brevis. Are you getting me? So radial nerve is supplying all the muscles of the extensor compartment of the arm and the forearm. For now, these muscles might sound very difficult to recall, but as you will do the dissection of the forearm, you will understand these muscles better. For this moment, remember all of these are supplied by radial nerve. One muscle from the anterior compartment of the arm, that is brachialis, only lateral half is supplied by radial nerve. Out of that, triceps, medial head gets nerve supplied twice. This can be asked as MCQ, so you should recall this. Now coming to the applied anatomy of the radial nerve, lesion of the radial nerve can take place anywhere from above downwards. First, coming to the axilla. In the axilla, as it is a continuation of the posterior cord, if there is, a person who's using crunches, compresses on the axilla, that pressure will be, compressed on the axilla, and that will lead to injury to the radial nerve in the axilla. Is it clear? Or this is called a Saturday night palsy, because alcoholic people, if they have trying to overdrink alcohol, what they do, they try to go to sleep with their arm axilla kept on the sharp edge of the back of the chair. For this, you have to remember position of Shahenshah, that is Amitabh Bachchan in the movie, So that is your arm is resting over the sharp edge of the back of the chair, as it is usually taking place at the weekend. In cases of alcoholism, what it will do, it will compress the radial nerve in the axilla, in the spiral groove, and lead to temporary loss of sensation of the radial nerve. So that is called as Saturday night palsy. If axilla is, radial nerve is injured or compressed in the axilla, what will happen? All the muscles will be paralyzed. That is, your triceps will be involved, right? As the triceps are involved and all the extensors are involved, the wrist, if you see, will be dropping down. Fingers also will not be able to extend, right? So this position is called as wrist drop. This is called as wrist drop. Are you getting me? There is a sensory impairment all over the supply of the radial nerve. Now, specifically, if it gets injured in the spiral groove, how will it get injured in the spiral groove? If there is a fracture of the shaft of the humerus, it can get entrapped in the healing of the fracture in the callus. Okay. Or sometimes, if the person is kept on the operating table, the patient is unconscious, and that arm is, kept extended and it is creating compression on the spiral groove. So there can be, injury to the radial nerve or back of the, because of the edge of the operating table. If there is a fracture or, because of any dislocation or whatever it is, there is a tunicate tied around the arm for a very long time, it will temporarily, you must have experienced this, when you are taking the pulse, measuring the blood pressure, you try a tunicate around the arm to auscultate the brachial artery. If you extend the pressure for a longer time and keep it for a longer time, there will be temporary radial nerve paralysis. Okay, so similarly, tunicate will be, somebody's mic is on, please, you're disturbing me. The clinical findings in the injury to the radial nerve in the spiral groove, you will see that person will be unable to extend the wrist or the fingers. So there'll be wrist drop. There'll be wrist drop. There'll be sensory loss at the very small area of anesthesia over the dorsum of the hand and lateral 3.5 fingers, because we have seen the superficial branch of the radial nerve supplies this, right? Now, if the injury to the deep nerve, that is your posterior interossei nerve, is taking place.
Hello.
Hello.
Manag.
Hello. You need to keep your mic off. Did you get me? Somebody's mic is on. How should I continue with the lecture? I don't know why you purposely do this, you make the teacher lose the, first of all, we cannot see y'all. We are taking a lecture and then you're creating such problems. Anyway, we were on the deep posterior interossei nerve, that is the deep branch of the radial nerve. This can be asked as a short note for y'all. From the course till what it forms and what muscles it supplies. Okay, so here you will have to write the applied anatomy also of this. As we said, it is formed at the lateral epicondyle. After that, it will supply all the extensor, that is superficial group, intermediate group, and deep group of the extensor compartment of the forearm. Then it ends in a pseudoganglion. And if it is injured, so how will it get injured? It will get injured when there is damage or fracture at the proximal lower end of the sorry, this should be the distal end of the radius, proximal end of the radius, sorry. That is the upper end of the radius that is forming the superior radioulnar joint, you know. If the head this gets dislocated, the superior radioulnar joint is involved in pronation and supination. It is a pivot type of joint. So suppose the head gets dislocated over here, so it will get injured over here. Or there's any penetrating injury of the forearm, you know, so that time this nerve will be injured. What happens over here? Try to understand. Before the radial nerve gives terminal branches, that is your posterior interossei nerve, it has already supplied a few muscles, extensor compartment muscles. That is your brachioradialis, extensor carpi radialis longus. So they remain uninjured. They remain uninjured and they are quite powerful muscles. They are quite powerful muscles. So the wrist drop will not occur here. The wrist drop will not be seen in this condition. So if there is a pure injury to the posterior interossei nerve, there will be no wrist drop because brachioradialis and extensor carpi radialis longus will be undamaged. What will be seen over here, the person will not be able to extend the thumb at the metacarpal. That is your abductor pollicis, extensor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis brevis will be damaged. Are you getting me? So you have to recall that the person will be having a different, no sensory loss because it's a pure motor nerve. Now, if there is injury to the superficial radial nerve, that can be because of stab injuries, because it is quite superficial, you know. If there is some injury, stab injury, it will lead to what will be presenting. There will be anesthesia of the dorsum of the hand and the lateral 3.5 fingers. Total loss. A short note can be asked on wrist drop. So I've taken a separate topic that is wrist drop. What is this wrist drop? Wrist drop is a condition in which the wrist and the fingers cannot extend at the metacarpophalangeal joint. Are you getting me? The hand will be lying as dropped, you know, so it is called as wrist drop. The wrist remains partially flexed due to opposing action of flexors are intact, right? Flexors are working. So it will remain this way, partially dropped, you know. Why this is happening? Because the extension at the wrist is taken by the extensor compartment of the forearm, right? That is, we have seen all the extensor compartment of the forearm. That is superficial group, intermediate group, and deep group. What are the causes? One can be stab injury, the radial nerve in the axilla, the radial nerve in the spiral groove, you know, wherever there is a fracture of the clavicle, injury to the posterior cord, right? If that happens in the axilla, we said that there will be wrist drop. But at the same time, in the axilla, we saw there was axillary nerve also given by the posterior cord. So the deltoid also will be lost. So abduction of the shoulder joint also will be lost along with it. This is the way you should relate where is the injury. If there is fracture of the humerus in the spiral groove, which is also called as radial groove, we saw there will be a wrist drop, right? If there is crunches, there will be wrist drop. Okay, now shoulder joint mainly gets dislocated downwards. If it is getting dislocated downward, it will compress on the radial nerve and will lead to wrist drop. What are types of wrist drop? Now, if there is weakness of brachioradialis, wrist extension and finger flexion, that is radial nerve lesion. This is very clear to understand, okay? Now, weakness of finger extension and radial deviation of the wrist on extension That is, it is posterior intraossei nerve lesion. This is in the spiral groove. This is in the radial, in the forearm. Weakness of triceps, finger extension and flexion. That is, the lesion is at C7 and C8. That is at the posterior cord in the axilla itself. General weakness of upper limb. That is deltoid, triceps, wrist extension and finger extension. That is corticospinal lesion. Are you getting me? So we are going one step ahead and trying to classify the types of wrist drop. You'll see the wrist drop if there's corticospinal lesion, but that will be accompanied by deltoid also. Remember this. If it is in the axilla, triceps, fingers will be having problem. If it is in the forearm, partial one. Okay, and that is wrist will be a bit spared, you know. And if it is in the spiral groove, then your brachioradialis will also go. Now, coming to watch this video, everybody revise it with me. Now, if you recall your radial nerve is a continuation of the posterior cord. This posterior cord is formed by the C5, C6, C7. Where it is formed, it is related to the third part of the axillary artery. So what are the root value? C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1. This posterior cord will run posterior to the axillary artery. Related to the third part of the axillary artery, the radial nerve will be given. It will be related to the muscles in the posterior axillary wall. The muscles in the posterior axillary wall, you recall, are three muscles. That is your subscapularis, teres major, latissimus dorsi. All of them are supplied by the posterior cord itself. What are the branches given by the posterior cord? Upper subscapular, lower subscapular, thoracodorsal. This thoracodorsal will definitely supply the latissimus dorsi, and it will give one more branch, that is axillary nerve, which supplies the deltoid. Now the radial nerve will run along with the brachial artery, posterior to the brachial artery, right? And now before that, in the axilla, it gives three branches. That is your long head, medial head of triceps, and one more branch, what this is called as posterior cutaneous nerve of the arm. Some book says it comes, don't bother about that. So in the axilla, radial nerve will give three branches. That is, it will supply the medial head, it will supply the long head, and the posterior cutaneous nerve of the arm. This is the area where the posterior cutaneous nerve of the arm is supplying it, right? Now it will follow the branch coming from the brachial artery, that is profunda brachii, run in the spiral groove of the humerus. If you recall, we said that the triangular area which is formed through which it passes, the radial nerve passes, is bounded by the teres major above, long head of triceps medially, and shaft of the humerus laterally. Here it accompanies the branch, the largest branch coming from the brachial artery, which is called as profunda brachii artery. So this triangle area is called as the posterior lower triangular area. It will enter where? It will go in the groove, which is called as spiral groove. What is this spiral groove? The spiral groove is present posterior to the humerus, and here it will lie in relation between the two heads of the triceps. That is your lateral head and the medial head of the triceps. Okay, as it is going between the two heads, it will give branches to these two heads. That is your lateral head of triceps and medial head of triceps. Now, when it is passing through this, then it will reach the lateral compartment of the arm, where it will pierce the lateral intramuscular septum to come anteriorly. So, if you see, the surgical leg of the humerus has axillary nerve. The spiral groove has got radial nerve. So in the humerus, the upper, this area, upper, middle third and the lower are the safest area. In the spiral groove, it is supplying the lateral head of the triceps. It is supplying the medial head of the triceps, which goes and supplies the anconeus. We have seen it gives cutaneous branch, that is the lower lateral cutaneous nerve of the arm, and posterior cutaneous nerve of the forearm in the spiral groove, right? So after it pierces the intramuscular septum, it will come to lie in the anterior compartment of the arm, where it goes and supplies muscles, right, which is the brachioradialis. So this is the posterior cutaneous nerve of the arm area supplied by the lower cutaneous nerve of the arm, right, and the posterior cutaneous nerve of the forearm. So these are the cutaneous branches. Now we will go anteriorly when it is piercing the anterior lateral intramuscular septum to enter into the anterior compartment of the arm, where we said it supplies which muscles? It supplies the brachialis. That is the lateral arm of the brachialis, brachioradialis. So here and the extensor carpi radialis longus. So here it is lying between the brachialis and the brachioradialis until it descends down to reach the lateral epicondyle. To reach the lateral epicondyle. Is it clear? So in the lower arm, it will give branches to the brachioradialis, brachioradialis, extensor carpi radialis longus. This video says extensor carpi radialis brevis. Don't remember this. Is it clear? Now, when it's passing through this lateral compartment, if there is a fracture to the lower end of the humerus, we said there will be wrist drop, because the brachioradialis and will be injured and the extensor carpi radialis will be injured. Is it clear? Now, as it goes down, descends down towards the lateral side of the cubital fossa, or it divides into two branches. One is called as posterior interossei nerve, another is the superficial branch of the radial nerve. Now, anconeus was supplied by radial nerve coming from the branch from the medial head, right? As this is going down, it enters into the posterior interossei nerve enters into the forearm through passing through the two heads of supinator muscle. Okay, the supinator has two heads. It will pass through supinator. When you do in detail, the ulnar nerve, it goes through two heads of flexor carpi ulnaris. Median nerve goes through two heads of pronator teres. Similarly, the posterior interossei nerve goes through two heads of supinator. This is very important for you to remember in the MCQ also. When it is passing through the two heads of the supinator, this arcade is called as arcade of Fosses. Okay, it can be untrapped sometimes over here. So it will be leading to the injury of the posterior interossei nerve. One more cause of injury of the posterior interossei nerve is compression or entrapment of the posterior interossei nerve in this arcade. When it is going down, it will supply all the muscles of the forearm that we saw, that is extensor carpi ulnaris, extensor digiti minimi, extensor digitorum, extensor carpi radialis brevis, okay, extensor pollicis brevis, extensor indicis, extensor pollicis longus, abductor pollicis longus. It is purely motor nerve. It will go and end in a pseudoganglion, and it will supply all the muscles. Is it right? Suppose there is an injury to this nerve, we said there will be no wrist drop, but the thumb will not be able to, and the person will not be able to do this hitchhike sign. Okay. Is it clear? So to test the injury to the posterior interossei nerve injury, you tell the person to do hitchhike. If he cannot do it, then you will see. But remember this. Is it clear? Now another branch given by the radial nerve was your superficial branch, which is purely sensory. We said it is purely sensory because posterior interossei nerve is purely motor. It will supply all the superficial and the deep group. The superficial branch of the radial nerve is purely sensory. It is quite superficial. It passes between, we said, it lies between the brachioradialis and pronator teres, then crosses the lateral side of the radius to enter the dorsum or the of the area of the snuff box, where it will give its terminal branches, that is just 5 centimeter above the wrist. Okay, and then it will give all those branches to supply the dorsum of the skin, lateral part, lateral 2/3, and lateral 3.5 fingers, excluding the terminal phalanx. Remember this. Is it clear? So this is the nerve supply given by the radius. If there is, so if you see posterior part, all this is supplied by the radial nerve. The lateral side is supplied by the musculocutaneous nerve of the forearm, and the upper part over there is supplied by axillary nerve, if you recall. And the medial part is going to be supplied by the medial cutaneous nerve of the forearm, coming from the medial cord. So this is the distribution of the radial nerve